The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. It's also the home for Autism Live. We're thrilled to be here with you live on this Thursday morning. I know you guys have been watching the news and seeing that a lot of Los Angeles is on fire and surrounding area is on fire. And right at the moment, we are all safe. And at the moment, everybody's homes are safe. So I just wanted to put that out to you that the winds have shifted and new fires have cropped up. I'm telling you, some of the pictures, it has looked like Armageddon, but at the moment, everybody here is safe. And as we've heard, all of our families are safe as well, too. So we press on, right? We actually have some blue sky today, and our thoughts are with all the families who have lost homes. And we've been hearing amazing rescue stories of animals being moved and people pitching in, reporters putting down their cameras to help move horses to stay away from the fire. You gotta love those kinds of stories, right? But our thoughts are with people who have lost the things that are dear to them in life, the things, literally. And I love a lot of the news here. They've been talking to those families who have said, well, we lost the things. And that's sad, but much rather lose the things than the people and the animals, right? But our thoughts are with them during this rough time. We are going to be with you live for the next 2 hours, and we've got a great show planned for you. You can see I've got some of the things on my desk already because it's Festival of Toys time. So we're going to be talking about that as well. My attention just keeps going to, we had a question that came in at some point during the night that I want to make sure that I answer. So I'm just going to flip to it right now. When your child is given 20 hours of ABA, does that literally mean this intense therapy will only be for 2 weeks and then it's over? And actually, no, if what they're talking to you about is 20 hours of ABA, then that should be 20 hours a week. And let me point out that, you know, while you might be going, woohoo, I got 20 hours a week, and it will go on for probably a couple of years, if not longer, I want to point out to you that that is below the standard of what is acceptable, depending upon your child's age. Now, if we're talking about a 14-year-old that's getting 20 hours of ABA a week, that's probably a good amount, depending on the individual. But if you're talking about a child who is under the age of 8, I would tell you right now, go back in and fight to get at least another 10, preferably another 20. Right? But it should, that number when they say, well, you're getting 20 hours of ABA, that should be per week. And that is basically, if you have a child that's under the age of 8, that's somebody trying to put one over on you. I'm just going to say that. That is not enough. And they will tell you, oh, well, that's the usual and that's the regular, and because that's what insurance companies are giving to families is 20 hours a week. But the studies are there, you guys. And you know why they're picking 20? Because there is one study that shows that 25 hours a week was enough to significantly impact a group of children that they did really well. Most studies show that it's between 30 and 40 hours a week, but there is a study that shows that doing 10 a week is the same as doing nothing. Nothing. So insurance companies are floating out this 20, hoping that parents will be like, oh my gosh, that's so much. Thank you. Like, what a great thing. No, don't be thanking them. Go back and fight with them to get the full prescription. That's like your doctor handing you a prescription going, you know, We know that this penicillin thing works for strep throat, but I'm only going to give you half of it because it's expensive. You would never settle for that, right? So don't with ABA, but 20 hours a week. And if they come back and tell you, oh, it was just for 2 weeks, fight, 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 call me. Call me and we'll work it out together. Or you can email me, right? Which reminds me, there's lots of ways to get a hold of us here. Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways. I'm going to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. You can go there right now. Lots of things to do. Check out, if you go to the blog tab, you can see our toy guide, which is really cool. I think so anyway. But there are other things to do. If you look at the computer screen, there's a triangle on the computer screen. If you click on that, then that will start either the live show playing or the most recently recorded live show. If you want to go back through the 100 most recent episodes and you don't want to leave that page, there's a memo tab in the upper left-hand corner. You can click on that. If you want to go back further in time, all of our episodes are archived on YouTube, and there's 6 years there. And I guarantee you can find something that will be of use to you there. Now, we are on other sites as well, and we love to hear from you in all the different ways that you can interact with us. You can interact on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, all of those places. But there's also the live feature on our homepage, autism-live.com. And I like to remind you about that only because if you're looking for some anonymity and you don't want people to know what question you're asking, boy, that's the place. Because all you do is you put your cursor in the box that says your question and you type and you hit enter. You don't have to log in. You don't have to prove that you're not a bot. You don't have to give a credit card number. It's free and anonymous. I don't even know who you are. It just shows up whatever you wrote. It doesn't tell me this came from St. Louis. It doesn't tell me at all. So do give me information if you're looking for resources. Tell me what the closest major city is and about approximately how many miles away you are from it, right? That helps me to go, okay, if you're living in the middle of Tennessee, it's a much different thing than if you're in a suburb of Los Angeles. I wish that wasn't the case, but it helps me not to say, oh, well, you can get this when I know that you probably can't. Because I don't want to trot things out to you that won't work. So write into us, participate. We love to hear from you. We absolutely do. Okay, and then I also want to say too that my personal email is S as in Shannon .Penrod, Penrod as in dog, at autism-live.com. And you can always email me. Sometimes, people have said, gee, you can only put so many characters in the live feature, and I really, wanted to write to you about something. You absolutely can write to me, and then I can share that here. Okay, so we like to start every morning with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out what exactly are they talking about, because it's so overwhelming when you first get a diagnosis for somebody in the family, and then you start talking to experts and they start using this jargon stuff, and you just think, oh man, I'm done, right? And my thing is, for the first 2 years, because I'm an autism mom, in the first 2 years, man, I fought it. And I was like, what does that mean? And why didn't you say it that way to begin with, right? And then I really discovered that I was costing everybody time and energy, that I really needed to take some personal responsibility, figure out what these terms meant, and start to learn them. And it was very overwhelming. So we take it a little bit at a time. We give you one word, one phrase, one acronym. We give you the actual definition. I make fun of that. Then we move on to the working definition, where hopefully it's something that we can give you an example and you go, okay, I kind of get it. Don't be afraid if you don't get it the first time. We recycle some of them and go through them over and over and over again. And I think usually around the 4th or 5th time, people go, no, I got it. And then you start to know that term, and you see that it saves you time and energy when you're talking to experts. So we've been talking about lots of different play jargon. Yes, there's play jargon. I know. For those of you who are new to this, you go, no, serious? Play jargon? Why? But you'll start to see why, because it makes sense and it helps you to be able to achieve things. So our jargon term, our next in our series of 4, is imaginative play. Remember, we first did functional pretend play. That's when you have like the play vacuum cleaner, right? And it's functional and we're pretending to be grown-ups, right? There's something really to be said for that. Then we did symbolic play where you endow something with a quality and you go, okay, this pen is now a phone. And I go, hello, oh, it's for you. And I hand it to the child and they're like, wait a second, that's a pen. And I go, no, it's a phone. Because I've endowed it by doing this, going, yeah, yeah, oh, no, really? I've endowed it with the qualities of a phone. That's symbolic play, right? So now we move on to imaginative play. So let's take a look at what our actual definition is. There it is. Using imagination to create objects, locations, scenarios, and situations where they do not already exist for the purpose of play. There's not a lot to make fun of there, right? So imaginative play is when we kind of do away with everything. It's like not having a net. Let's take a look at our working definition. It's making it up. There it is. So instead of me reaching for the phone and endowing it with the qualities, now I just go, hello, and I have nothing there, right? Hello, oh, it's Disneyland calling for you, right? And I'll tell you what, the first time, whether neurotypical or on the spectrum, the first time that you do these things with any kid, they kind of go, what just happened? Like, well, there's nothing there, right? They question the reality of it. But as you continue to go, oh, no, and you make it believable, right? And go, it's for you, they start to play along. And what it does is it loosens their rigid ideas of the world. And honestly, it allows them to make anything. I remember when Jem got symbolic play, because I was so afraid. I had such a hard time playing with my own kid. I'm just going to be honest about that, right? Because he didn't play in the way that I played, and he didn't play in the way that the other kids played. And I thought, oh, is that not going to come? But they started working on him with functional pretend play, and that was great. And then they started working with him with symbolic play. And I remember the day that he got that. He was in preschool. It was a Fun for Fours program. And the teacher called me in and said, because I was out there early to pick him up, and she was like, you got to come see this. You got to come see this. And they had those little plastic link things that you can link together and make like, almost looks like a paper chain. And it was this time of year. And he had taken one of the other boys that was in the class who was neurotypical, and he said, everybody else was playing house, and they had a little toy house that was there with the functional pretend kitchen and all that stuff. And it was Christmas time, and so he and this other boy, they went over and they put a whole string of these links together. And the teacher thought that they were making a paper chain because there wasn't that much of a leap to go to a paper chain. And Jem looked at her, and he didn't have a huge vocabulary at that point, but he was talking, and he said, they're lights. And he got the other little boy, and he said, we're decorating with whites, right? And he got it all decorated, and then he stood back and he goes, whites, look at the pretty whites, right? And then all the other kids got it and they were like, ooh, and then they started decorating everything and calling them lights. Well, it was only that he endowed it with the lights. Well, it was just a hop, skip, and a jump then to a week later that he said to somebody, we're playing rocket ship, and there was no rocket ship. He just, he like opened the door, and one of the kids got in and they punched on the little board and they took off and they went to Mars for the play period. And that's the kind of stuff that when you can get a kid to do that, it's just so exciting because then they can think of anything. And I'll tell you the other part about it is that it helps with flexibility. Because we saw an immediate response that there had been things that he had been very rigid with, right? And if you did it any different way, and he would, and then suddenly it was like, oh, no, sort of everything goes. And it's an amazing thing. I remember taking him, we had the little fishing pole that the speech and language pathologist used, that plastic fishing pole, functional pretend play, right? And they would, magnetic, right? They would fish and it would grab a little fish, the magnet meets the magnet, and they would reel it in, and it would have a word on it. And he would say the word and it would be great. Woohoo, right? So then I remember the day that I took him to Costco, and they had those big flatbed carts, and we needed to get water or something that I needed to the flatbed cart, and he wanted to sit on the flatbed cart, and I turned around, nothing in his hands, and he was fishing off the cart. It's all great. And everybody, I think within a couple of years, I think when he was in second grade, he got an award for being the most creative. And you go, woohoo, right? So those of you who are afraid your kids aren't going to be creative, remember, these are the steps, and it happens and it works. Yes, for neurotypical kids, sometimes it just happens all on its own, and that's a drag that we have to teach it, but isn't it grand that we can? That's our jargon for today. Moving on, we have a question of the day for you every day. And our question today, which you probably can guess by seeing what I've got out, what's your favorite board game? And what was your favorite board game when you were a kid? What's your favorite board game now? We've got some of my faves with us here in the house, because in just a little while, we're gonna do some toy interviews, because I love that best. So anyway, write in and let us know what your favorite board game is. There's something about board games. Let's move on to what our topic is, because then it'll all make sense to you. Our topic for today, for this week, is the dining room table. Because a lot happens around the dining room table. And we've seen all the press and studies about sit down to dinner together. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not so good about that. I really am not. And sometimes I mourn it and go, oh, I should do more of that. But you know what? There's other things that you can do around the dining room table. And I think as long as you're hitting it on 2 or 3 of them, it doesn't have to be all of them, right? It's like a pick and choose kind of a situation. So sometimes mealtime and having discussions and having the TV off at mealtime, for a lot of people, that can be a great thing. I'll tell you, for me, that's a stress nightmare, because the 3 of us eat totally different things. I become a short order cook, and I find that, I'm getting up out of the chair, and, it's not good for me. So I'm not so good at the dining room table thing. But we do other things at the dining room table, like we do arts and crafts at the dining room table. We do homework sometimes at the dining room table, although not all the time anymore, but we used to always do it at the dining room table. And we play board games at the dining room table. And my friends, there's just something so fabulous about playing board games. For those of you who don't find it reinforcing, and there are people who don't, and there are a lot of our kids that don't, I would suggest to you that you're not doing it right. It has to be reinforcing. And in the beginning, you got to pair something that's already reinforcing with the board game. So it's important to have drinks and snacks that make people happy at the table. And it's important to let your silly out. You have to leave things, there are times when, Jem wants to play a board game, and my husband or I, one of us will be like, oh, I don't know if I'm in the mood, right? Because you got to be in the right mood. But the other one will say to that one, get it together, and the thing you can't do is like, how long is this going to take? I love board games that are not 7 hours long, although occasionally, I love a good game of Risk where it takes all weekend long. Used to do that in college with a group of friends. Yes, I'm that kind of a geek. And I love a good long game of Monopoly once a year, but otherwise I like games that are short. So we've got some amazing games for you that have the option of being very short. Oh, Roxana said Candyland was her favorite board game. I love that. And there's Candyland, it's a stalwart. But realize, you guys, that board games have the ability to teach all kinds of things. So often you guys write in and say the 2 big things of skill acquisition that you're looking to build up usually are beyond potty training, right? Beyond that, the things that you want to build are social skills and conversation language skills, right? Well, guess what board games do the best? They work on both those things. And sometimes, which one else, Samantha? Oh, she's telling me to wrap up. So, because I'm going on too long. But they work on social skills and they work on communication, and sometimes they work on other things as well. It just depends on the board game. So we've got some amazing board games coming up for you here in the show today. We're going to take a short break and then we're going to come back. And we've got Brian Turtle from Endless Games. And it's not Christmas around here until we've had Brian Turtle from Endless Games. We've got some of their games that we're going to be showcasing. We've got special education attorney Bonnie Yates, who's going to be joining us. I think we're talking about bullying today, although I've said that before. And Bonnie's best at knowing what we're going to talk about. And then a little bit later on in the show, we have Colette Koski. I hope I'm saying her name right, from Infantino. Some of the, you can just see out of the corner here, these fabulous blocks I'm going to grab. These were in our toy guide this year, and Infantino has a host of other toys too. But I love every child needs to have blocks, because the things you can do with blocks, you can go from functional pretend to symbolic to imagine play with. And these are great because they are reinforcing, because you can press them together. They're sensory blocks, and you can make all kinds of things with them and be successful. A lot of times kids get upset because they might put a block like this, and of course with typical blocks, right? And then they don't build a tower, and we need to get them to build towers. We'll talk about all that a little bit later. So cool, those blocks. All right, so we're going to take a break, and we are going to come. And by the way, we also have mindfulness. We're going to talk about the Sensitive Santa event. We got way too much going on, but a lot. So stick with us. Welcome back, everybody. We are here with board games. In fact, joining us via Skype is Brian Turtle from Endless Games. And Brian, I was just saying, it's not Christmas at Autism Live until we've had you on the show. I'm just saying.
That's right. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, we always love having you on. Endless Games is an amazing company with amazing board games, and everybody should check you guys out. Endlessgames.com.
That's right. Endlessgames.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter and all of the social media sites, so they can find us on those as well.
And you guys have great games. In fact, your games won a couple of awards from us this year. We have Oddly Obvious won a game, and we're going to play that in just won one of our awards. And so did Sleepover Party. Both of them won in the category of board games. And for Sleepover Party, it won for teens and tweens, I believe. And for Oddly Obvious, it was, gosh, it was for that's the teens and tweens, and school age is Sleepover Party. I always get them confused because the truth of the matter is that you could play these games with different age ranges because they were so fabulous. Which one do you want to play first, Brian?
I guess what cards are those you have in your hand? Sleepover Party?
I got Sleepover Party in my hand.
Let's start there. That's one of my personal favorites.
I love this game, Brian. I got to play a lovely version of it this morning with a 10-year-old that we had here in the office, and we had such a good time, and I cannot wait to play this with my little nieces. But the truth of the matter is that this could be played with boys or girls. It's a hilarious game.
Well, I'm glad you find it hilarious. We, it can be boys or girls. We show some girls on the package. My own two daughters, Lila and Sophie Turtle, really had a lot to do with the development of this game, and really, it's all about the fun activities and stunts and things that you would do while having a sleepover party. Although you don't necessarily have to have a sleepover party in order to play the sleepover party game. What the game is, it's a big spinner and 3 categories: act it, work it, and party. And those categories have different card decks from Work It, Act It, and then my party deck here. And much to your point before about the functional pretend and imaginative pretend, a lot of what Sleepover Party is features both of those and more. For example, this would be a Work It card if we spun the spinner and landed on Work It. This is more of the kind of more physical challenging. This one here says, pretend you are using a yo-yo. Show everyone your fanciest yo-yo trick. So now I have to sort of pretend that I've got a yo-yo in my hand and then showcase my walk the dog or around the world and show everyone my yo-yo trick with an imaginary yo-yo. So a lot of that imaginary play is right there in that example.
Absolutely love this. I think it's so super clever, and it's easy to play. This isn't one of those games that and this is a hallmark of your games. This isn't a game where it takes 3 hours to set it up and 17 minutes to read the directions and then lots of discussion. This was, we sat down and played this game really quickly and had such a good time. And it's a game that could be over in a very short period of time because you only have to play to 10 points, although it's the kind of game where you end up playing several times because it's so much fun.
Yeah, and I know you just mentioned previously about being a Risk player while you were in college.
Yeah.
The thing about what we do at Endless Games is, as much as I enjoy a good game of Risk myself, we like to just jump right into the fun. We don't want to have a long list of instructions. It's really basic and simple, especially something like Sleepover Party. You spin the spinner, you draw the card corresponding to that portion of the spinner that you land on, and then there are point values on the cards. So like you just said, you're trying to score 10 points before your opponents, but like a lot of other games that we produce at Endless Games, we find that it's less about the winner and loser. It's more about the journey than the destination.
Yeah. There was a moment when I started playing. So I said I was playing with a 10-year-old this morning who's neurotypical. I'm just going to say that. And we started, and she drew her first card, and it was that she had to be hosting her own cooking show and do a demonstration of how she makes her famous peanut butter sandwich. And there was a little moment where she was like, "Oh, I don't know." And like she, there was a little moment of, "I'm not sure I know how to do that." And I said, "Well, let's just pretend, and it will be okay no matter what you do," and gave her permission. And then it was a hoot. It was
That's
a
great.
total hoot. She made the sandwich, and at one point she put jam, and she was like, oh, she had this pretend sandwich, and she put peanut butter, and then she put jam, and she said, "Oh no, I put it on the same piece that had the peanut butter." And I said, "Hey, we're pretending, it's all good." And that kind of play, you guys, our kids need that so bad, instead of constantly being on the phone or the iPad.
Oh gosh, don't even get me started on that tangent. The
Yeah.
screen time, we need less and less screen time. It's important to have the human connection that you experience while playing a board game. Just to your point about maybe there's some mild intimidation when you have to do a pretend something or other on the card. The party category is great to sort of counterbalance that, because in the party category, these are cards that involve usually the whole group. And so everybody's now doing the activity. This one here is hold hands with every player and do the wave in a circle 3 times. So now everyone gets up and we do the wave around the room, and or keep an invisible beach ball in the air for 20 hits. So this element of it does take away from that intimidation of your own individual performances or individual challenges, the party cards. So that's another way to sort of lessen any type of anxiety.
Absolutely. And we know in the autism world that modeling behavior is a great way to teach something, and what's socially acceptable. And so the first time that I drew a card, my card was that I had to tell a story to explain how my parents use our pet snail to mow the lawn. And this young lady, she looked at me and she was like, "Oh, I don't know how you're going to do that." And then I launched into the story, which was very silly. And you could tell that the little wheels were moving. And she was like, "Oh, so it's totally okay to make stuff up." So that by the time we got to her next challenge, where she had to order her meal at a restaurant as if she was a monkey, she totally went for it. These are the kinds of things that our kids need. This is, honestly, all kids need this, neurotypical and otherwise, but our kids on the spectrum need this even more. These are the kinds of skills, being able to just jump in and do something in the moment. If you think about it, think about how much of a difference that would make at a job interview. Somebody who's able to look at something, identify it, and go, "Okay, I'm just going to jump in here." It's a good thing. This is a great game, and it will keep everybody involved, because there's always something that's going to happen, and it's so fun when mom and dad can be silly.
That's right. It's great to get silly with the kids and show them that it's cool when you get silly too. In fact, one of my coworkers at Endless Games, Linnea Chiaccio, loves to play this game, and she's always the most animated and wants to tell the funniest story. And so my kids love to show up and see what kind of crazy wild activity or zany stunt my friend Linnea will want to do when we play sleepover party. So
And you never know what you're going to get. You never know what.
You never know. You never know. It's great.
But for parents, the great thing about this is I love your games are always well packaged and boxed, so the games are really sturdy. It's a great spinner. It will take you 3 seconds to unbox it. You can play, and then when it's time to pack it up, this is a part of the lesson that we do for our kids on the spectrum, is that they have to help pack it up, and your games pack up so easily. It's 3 decks of cards and a board. You're not going to be sorting through the different denominations of money. You're not picking up the little houses off the floor for an hour, right? It just packs up and it's easy.
Well, you do. There is always that issue. If the game's over, everybody leaves the dining room table and mom or dad is left to clean it up. So this one's a nice one where everyone chips in and it's cleaned up lickety split, and you can move on to maybe playing a round of oddly obvious.
And exactly, which is what we're going to do. Oh, and my box just made a noise. I love that was impolite. Excuse me.
We do that on purpose too.
But I want to say for our autism parents, don't be stuck at the table packing it up. Make the kids help. That's good for them to learn to pack up their toys. Okay, so now, and we've talked about oddly obvious before because I love this game. For our kids, especially, we know that a lot of times they have trouble with double entendres and things that have double meaning, and they can mistake something. You know, there are books written about this, about how they look at language as being very concrete. But I don't know if you know this, CARD was involved in a study. They did a study about teaching children how to understand this kind of language and taught that it absolutely can be taught. And one of the keys to it is giving them lots of opportunities and making it reinforcing. So what we have here is oddly obvious, which is everything that you would want for that in a box. We absolutely love this game. So tell us a little bit about how we play this.
Okay, so it's 3 decks of cards like this that feature a lot of words in various orientations, and sometimes the fonts are different, and just a whole answer bank in front of everyone playing the game. So if I'm the host, it actually comes with a little card stand, but I usually like to just hold the card up myself so that I can sort of show people in their face as they want to see it. In any case, what's on the back of the card, which I don't want to read off, which reveal too fast, so I'll show you all the answers, but that's where all the clues are. And so as the card reader, I have the clues to read aloud, and then those playing will have to be the first to shout out the answer from the word bank from the front of the card. So, for example, you're now on the clock,
Okay,
Shannon.
all right.
If I say
I'm looking at the card.
An ironic place to store plates.
To store plates.
Right. Where would it seem ironic to store plates?
Gosh. Well, cupboard would be the easy answer.
But wouldn't that be ironic since it says cup?
Oh, so is it cupboard?
It is in fact cupboard.
Okay.
With cup being the first word. How about this one?
Okay.
Entirely too happy.
Entirely too happy. Overjoyed.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. International timeout.
International time out. Oh my gosh. I'm not necessarily good at this. Is that nonstop?
No, that's peace.
Peace. Oh, international timeout. Okay, great.
All right, this is a very clever play on words here. The clue is insanity plea.
Locomotive.
That's right, because loco being crazy and motive being a reason for your plea, so locomotive, insanity plea. And here's a fun one I like. Half its time spent waiting a turn.
Half its time spent waiting a turn. My gosh. Is that nonstop?
No,
oh, pancake. It's pancake. That's what it is.
Half on one side and then flip it over.
Of course it is. And see, these hurt your head a little bit, but because I'm like, which one? But I find that when we play this around the dining room table, and this is a game that we play regularly around the dining room table, it leads to discussion about why. Even if and we played this years ago with Jem, and his vocabulary is great now, but we played it even when his vocabulary wasn't great. And sometimes we would give a hint, and we would say, because all the things on the card are different colors, and we would say, it's one of the bigger words, or we would say it's one of the blue words, because there's 2 blue words. And then he would kind of have to reason it out. And even if he didn't understand it afterwards, just like you just did for me, we would explain to him, no, because you know how you turn a pancake over half the time? This is so good for our kids' brains.
It's good for kids and adults' brains, because sometimes the clues are so clever that when you have that kind of V8 moment of, aha, I can't believe that.
Right.
And I want to show you one of my personal favorites right on the box cover.
Uh-huh.
It will be below the oddly obvious logo. and we have clues on the back of the package, so you can play the box.
Okay, I love that.
All right, so my all-time favorite, what really kind of hooked us to make this game in the first place at Endless Games, was the clue. It's one of the words below the logo, and the clue is Army Animal. Army Animal.
Army Animal. Oh my gosh, I'm so not good at this. Is that the octopus?
It is, because an octopus has 8 arms, therefore it's Army.
Oh, Army.
So it's,
Army.
right,
Instead
because
of,
everybody's mind is going military, Army.
Right.
But you have to think, well, how else could Army be a word? And there's another one in there about cob. When you think corn on the cob, but the clue has to do with an ear, or the inner ear being corn on the cob. So
oh my goodness. It really forces you to be flexible with your thinking. These are the kinds of things that people are talking about right now for elderly people, to make sure that you stay fresh and that you don't end up having dementia and those kinds of things, that it helps. But with our kids, this teaches flexibility, and it can be so fun. You know what else it teaches too? Because you're never going to get 100% of them. You're just not. Some of them are harder than others. And I remember one of the things when Jem would see that I got stumped and couldn't get one, and then Dad would explain it to me, and I'd go, oh, of course. And he would see it was okay not to get it the first time. Great lesson to teach a kid, and very fun.
And also, one other point to that is that what happened in our house was my daughter and I were playing it, and then days later, maybe we were watching a football game, and Minnesota was playing. And I could see, sort of like you often talk about the wheels turning, and I could see my daughter Lila thinking about Minnesota. And then she came out and said to me, Dad, I have a good, oddly obvious clue for your next version of that game. The clue is Little Pepsi.
I love it. Minnesota. I love it. That's it's great for flexible thinking. So Brian, we're almost out of time. Are there any other games that you particularly, because these are the 2 that we featured in our toy guide. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
Yeah, I wanted to show this one here called Out of Order. This is brand new at Endless Games this year. And this is a game where you have different movie titles, song titles, book titles, and a plastic console where you slowly reveal one by one different clues as you go from completely obscure to totally obvious, where you would try to crack the code and unscramble and identify a movie title, a book title, a TV show, and put things that are out of order back into order. So
my husband would love that one.
All of these are available, and you can read up and watch videos and learn more about them at endlessgames.com. And of course, by all means, we encourage everyone to go to their local toy and game store and look for these. And if the particular store doesn't carry them, tell them to contact Endless Games, and we'll correct that problem.
Absolutely. These are awesome games. And Brian, please give our love to everybody there at Endless Games. We just love you guys. You do an amazing job. And you had 2 winners on our toy and gift guide. We just love Sleepover Party and Oddly Obvious, which is not to say that we don't love the rest of your games, because you make great games. Right. These were just 2 stellars this year that we had to acknowledge. So thank you, and have happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you too. We're proud to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. All right, you guys take care. Bye-bye. We got to hurry because we have to get to an interview with Bonnie Yates. But definitely, you guys, check out endlessgames.com. And don't for a second buy into the fact that this, sleepover party, it features 3 little girls. The boys, you get this as a family game and play it as a family with all the boys. Super, super great for getting everybody involved. Love it. All right, stick with us. We're going to be back with Bonnie Yates, special education attorney. Bye-bye.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
Let's go with Mrs.
That's a great idea.
Let's really build first.
Okay, Mom, what would you like to build?
Let's build a building.
Okay.
Right now, Jessica and Jack Riley are doing constructive play with Legos. What it does is teach a child how to imitate others and construct items out of their imagination.
I need a window. Where's my window?
Jack Riley is building things from his own mind, things that he's been taught before and he's recalling on his own.
Another one.
What is that supposed to be? Is it a camera? Or glasses? Or what is it?
Camera.
It's a camera? A special camera?
Here's my camera. Quick, quick.
Ooh, that's so cool. I also wanted to do functional pretend play too, so with the kitchen set to see how his conversation skills are. I haven't actually done that in the past couple weeks. What we're really focusing on for that is not just the actions of having him imitate, but rather the narration of it so that it's more appropriate. Like he can narrate what and tell us what he's doing in relation to what he's playing with, instead of us just modeling it for him. So we'll see.
What do you want to eat?
Can I have corn on the cob and some turkey?
Careful, it's hot. Oh, it's hot.
Blow on it.
Blow on it.
Okay, that looks delicious.
I want to eat anything else.
Yeah, I want dessert now.
Oh, here, give it to her. Here's your dessert, Suzanne.
We need some more fruit. Here's a fruit.
Oh, thank you. That looks delicious. I can't wait to eat it.
It's cool.
It's cold? Oh, good. Don't have to blow on it. Nom, 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 nom.
Do you like it?
Do you like it?
I love it. Thank you. It's a perfect call for a dessert. Nom, 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 nom. Would you like to have some of my fruit that you gave me? Which one would you like to have? Oh, the orange. Delicious.
How did it taste? Look at her.
How'd it taste?
It's good.
It's good?
I'm eating.
I know.
This is delicious.
Banana. Banana. Here's your banana.
Thank you for the banana.
Good morning. Welcome back. We're here. It's time for, we call this legal support with special education attorney. She's not special education, she's special education attorney, Bonnie Yates, and she's joining us via Skype. Bonnie, thank you so much for being with us. We really missed you last week. We know that you had a lot to do and you had offered to film at a different time, and we had a lot to do, but we're back with you this week and we couldn't be more thrilled. And you're looking lovely today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling a little better today because the air quality seems to be a little better here than it was yesterday. But obviously everybody's seen the totally surreal footage from the 405, and it's unfathomable sort of what kinds of things people are asked to go through in this life, in addition to dealing with all that folks with disabilities have to contend with.
Yeah, some of those pictures were just, I thought that they had been photoshopped. I was like, that can't be.
Well, they might be color juiced, but who knows?
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's crazy.
We know people are not safe. I have 2 clients that live in the Roscommare Bel Air area, so fingers crossed for everybody.
Absolutely, everybody's in our prayers.
So we've got a lot of material. We've got material on bullying. We've got material on eligibility, and then we've got this new idea of mine that I'm playing with called, be a due process detective.
Ah.
So we'll get to that, but
we do have to start by saying Hirji and
attorney,
Chow, though.
The Hirji and Chow attorney license.
Yep. Oops, we're losing.
We'll get to Hirji and Chow. That's okay.
Okay.
Hirji and Chow, you're losing me.
Now I've got you.
You
Let's see. I think
Hirji and Chow is the law firm that I work for, and we do disability discrimination and all aspects of special ed, and we do higher education for college students and things. So anyway, we're licensed in California. Our answers that we give are per federal law, which applies in all the 50 states, and California law. If you have a serious problem, and you need to ask somebody about it and you're outside California, please go to the COPA website and find what I believe to be a list of reputable attorneys in the state of California. If you want to give us a shout out, we'll try to answer your call. We can be reached at 310-391-0330. But just to end this, the information that I'm discussing today is general, and particularly with bullying, it tends to be federalized. Like there's a lot of stuff that the federal government has done to try to address the subject of bullying, but we also have state policies on things like cyberbullying and state statutes and things like that. So we're going to talk about bullying because it's clear to me that in, let's say, the last 5 years, we've been getting a lot more complaints about bullying. So perhaps people have gotten more educated about bullying. At its heart, the problem with bullying is it's so thorny to try to manage because people need specific training, and also bullying often occurs out of earshot or sight of anybody who could help. So we're just going to leap in and have the discussion, and at the end of the discussion, we're going to talk about some things that have been determined to be effective with bullying, because the last thing I want to do is serve you up a big problem with no support for yourself or your child. And then when we get finished with that, it might not be this week, we're going to talk about the new eligibility categories that were kind of reshaped in 2014. And then we're also going to talk about how you can be a due process detective and figure out what kinds of things are happening in your IEP that would be actionable if you went to due process. So we've got kind of a full plate today. So I should stop talking and let you talk before I leap right in.
No, I want to say, though, because of the fires and the winds, you're doing great, Bonnie, and every once in a while we're just losing like a second or two. So I just want to say to people watching this in the future, Skype is struggling as best as it can, and stick with us. And if we lose a chunk of her, we'll let you know, but we didn't lose anything that was essential, Bonnie. So just wanted to let you know. Okay. So jump right in. Bullying 101.
All right. Yes. So the other name for bullying is disability discrimination. And you can have causes of action under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, as well as Title II and the ADA. And so we've talked a lot about kind of IEPs and IEP verbiage, but this is the bullying verbiage. It's a little different. And it basically goes like this. You can't exclude a person who is qualified for whatever it is that they're being asked to do. You can't exclude them merely because they're disabled. And that would seem to be rather obvious, but I think, unfortunately, in some quarters, it goes on still all the time. I've certainly had private school cases where they didn't know better and kids were excluded for having autism, etc. But you can't give somebody with a disability inferior treatment. You can't exclude them, and you can't treat them differently without justification. So those are some of the first things about bullying when you're trying to analyze the situation. You want to be able to characterize the behavior and where it fits into the statute. Largely or loosely speaking, people with disabilities are entitled to comparable opportunities. So if you have a wheelchair and you need to see the performance of a concert or something, the concert hall has to figure out, let's say, a way to get you into your seat. And that only occurs to me because I saw the LA Phil doing a pretty nice job in a crowded venue on Tuesday night, getting a lovely woman from her seat to her chair and out of the building. So she can't be prevented from accessing that venue just because there are stairs and things like that, going down to the seats and ramps and stuff like that. I think they did a good job of getting her down the aisle and then into her chair. So that's kind of the comparable one of many types of comparable opportunities that people that aren't disabled just don't think about very much. You also can't deny somebody a benefit or service merely because they're disabled. So, for example, if all of the kids in kindergarten, except for the disabled kid, knew that there was a party on Friday and they needed to bring something, and the teacher forgot to talk to the disabled kid's mom about it, and he wasn't able to participate, that's not really okay. You can't give somebody ineffective support, for example. You can't seclude somebody as a punishment. You can't support another agency that discriminates against a student. You know, you can't kind of do you can't do indirectly what you can't do directly. You can't keep a qualified person, you know, a disabled but qualified person off of a planning or advisory board just because they're disabled. So these would be some examples of things that might come up.
And Bonnie, if I can interrupt, can I interrupt for just a second, Bonnie? Can I interrupt for just a second? Because I think I love the example that you gave about, you know, if somebody's in a wheelchair, they have to be able to access the venue. But isn't part of the problem with autism that there are a lot of times when our kids get discriminated against, but it's a little bit harder to pinpoint because I think people don't understand autism. So the kid who was flapping his hands and the teacher said, you have to sit quietly, and he continued to flap his hands, and now she says, you don't get to go out for recess, that would be not okay, right?
Yeah, that would be not okay, because basically if it's, you know, it's part of his disability and it's not impossible to figure out a way to reasonably accommodate him, then you can't punish him. You might be justified in having somebody sit with him or move him to a place where he's less disruptive to the other students. Again, those would be accommodations as opposed to just an outright bar.
But you can't keep him out of the playtime because of something that happened because of his disability. You cannot do that. Yeah. And I think that happens all the time.
Yeah, and as I said at the beginning, it's often hard to see the stuff or find out about the stuff unless you're a classroom aide, and those parents are only in the classroom sporadically.
Absolutely.
But you know, Title II, for example, says you can't use criteria that unnecessarily screen out the disabled from use and enjoyment of goods and services. Well, that's essentially what they're doing to him. They're using criteria that are unfair, which is nobody gets to clap their hands even if they have a neurological problem. And they're saying if somebody flaps or claps their hands, they can't go to recess. I don't think that's going to be okay.
Right.
So you have to reasonably accommodate, and you also have to take affirmative steps to prevent somebody from being excluded. And you can't create a hostile environment, you know, by letting a student, by either discriminating against a student because of his disability, or else letting another student bully him. And in essence, that can be a denial of faith or disability discrimination as well. The trick you see in the cases as far as bullying being disability discrimination is that the people that are looking at these things are requiring that there be a very tight nexus between the discrimination and sort of the alleged harm, and then also it has to rise to a level that's pretty pervasive. So teasing or bullying based on disability can be sufficiently serious to create a hostile environment if school officials knew or should have known about the bullying and they didn't take prompt action. So one of the things that you see running through some of the cases that I looked at yesterday on disability, discrimination, and bullying, look at how quickly the school responded and what they do. So if the school responds promptly and appropriately, they're not going to likely be liable for disability discrimination. And what this said to me is that you parent need to document this in writing as soon as it happens, so as to trigger their obligation to do something to stop the bullying. Does that make sense, Shannon?
Yes. You have to prime the pump. They have to do something, but you have to let them know.
Correct. Exactly. And I don't recommend telling people about things orally, because what tends to happen with that is it somehow gets swept under the rug a lot of times.
So an email, though, is an appropriate thing to
Email's
do.
great.
Okay.
Yeah, if I haven't said this on the program, sometimes people ask me still, is an email as, legally sound as a letter? And the answer is absolutely, as long as you got the right address and you can prove that it was received. So email's great. And I think email's easier in some ways for the school too, because they don't, they can respond when they have time, and they don't have to make a phone call, and they don't have to mail anything. So email's very, very good.
Do we need to send it return receipt, though? There is a way to do that with email. Do we need to do that to prove that they got it?
Well, I guess that would be the best practice. I think people that are going to argue that they never got 7 emails, all of which are to their address, are going to be looked on unfavorably by the court because this is not plausible.
Okay.
So anyway, the courts, I think, are recognize that bullying and disability discrimination is a huge problem, but I think they also are recognizing that oftentimes it may not be the fault of the adults in the environment, that it's not being dealt with appropriately. And so they have, not all the circuit courts, but a lot of them have basically said that the standard has to be deliberate indifference. In other words, you can't allege disability discrimination unless you can show that the school people acted, in a clearly unreasonable way in responding to the bullying. So that's just something to be aware of. I think from my read of the cases, they're concerned about bullying, but they're also concerned about being school protective. And so I think parents have to pull out all the stops, and I think the schools have to pull out all the stops too. So that's kind of disability discrimination-based bullying under Section 504 and so on. But you can also have a situation where bullying is pervasive enough so that it's interfering with the student's ability to go to school and access the curriculum, and it can be a denial of a free, appropriate public education. And at that point in time, if the district has a suspicion that this is going on, they should convene an IEP meeting, because they want to make sure that they don't need to get the students, the student's education is not being interfered with because of all of the anxiety and strife caused by the bullying. So, if your student is experiencing bullying, I think a great way to deal with it is to write a letter, ask for an IEP meeting, get everybody there and talk about it. Okay. Because there are some real things that can be done, and also once you've had the IEP meeting, they're on notice about the bullying, and nobody can say they didn't know that it happened. So, interestingly, too, one of the other things that the cases are dealing with is the student who has a disability may have been bullied in the past and now is himself bullying. And then there's also, the student that's a bully, and he doesn't have an IEP, but are there things about his behavior that should trigger the district to refer the quote-unquote bully for an assessment to determine whether or not he, in fact, has emotional disturbance and he needs an IEP in order to deal with his emotional condition, I guess you'd call it. So in some cases, bullying can actually trigger the requirement that the school district engage in child find. And, the cases talk about if you have a student that's engaging in aggression or sexual battery, for example, that might be an indication that he has abuse in his past and he meets the IDEA criteria for emotional disturbance. So you may need to, to assess him, or you may need to reassess the student who does have an IEP but now is engaging in bullying. It's very tricky.
It is tricky, and I will say this, Bonnie, that all of the friends that I've had that have had issues with this kind of thing report the same thing. So your child gets bullied by another kid, you report it to the school, and then the school kind of cuts you out of it because they go, well, we can't talk about the other student. We can't tell you whether the other student has an IEP. We can't tell you whether the other student. So you can say, has this child got an IEP, or have you done child find? And they're like, I can't violate their rights by telling you. And you ask, well, can I know what happened as a result of this child bullying my child, so I know that it's not going to go on. And a lot of times they say, you don't get to know, just know that we're taking care of it.
Right. Well, that's why I said it's a tricky area.
Yeah.
Because typically what parents want, let's say I've got 2 kids in a special day class and student A is bullying student B, what I'm going to get back from the district is we'll change your classroom, not, we'll change student B's classroom.
Right.
You could see why. I mean, it would be a change of placement without parental consent. But those are thorny situations. Now, I haven't given you a definition of bullying, but I want to, because we're talking about this. So bullying is characterized by aggression used within a relationship where the aggressor has more real or perceived power than the target, and the aggression is repeated or has the potential to be repeated. Physical, verbal, or psychological actions inflicting or attempting to inflict discomfort upon another through a real or through a real or perceived imbalance of power is bullying. So the IEP team, does have an obligation in responding to bullying to look into whether it constitutes either disability discrimination or a denial of faith. It's not something that they can look the other way about. Sorry about the rattling papers.
But part of it that's sticky there, correct me if I'm wrong, Bonnie, is that it has to be repeated. So if somebody does something once to your child, you can complain about it, but it isn't considered bullying, as I've heard, unless it is repeated.
Has to be pretty pervasive. If it's one incident, it's going to have to be very, very strong. Okay.
So it's so upsetting. Yeah, but okay.
But I don't think you should be mad at the educators in this situation. I think you should say this is a really complex human problem with a lot of balancing that needs to occur and a lot of different and important interests that the school is being asked to balance.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. I have already told you about how Nick was always bullied, 1 block away from school or 2 blocks away from school or outside of school where it was less obvious.
Yeah.
And, I didn't do anything about it, and maybe I should have, but the point is I was very sympathetic to the school. I didn't, I didn't expect them necessarily to be able to follow around every kid that was going to bully Nick after school and do something about it. Maybe I should have, because it certainly has colored his life and his experience of others and stuff like that.
See, my issue, Bonnie, is that sometimes, they get because I don't get mad at educators. I want to be sympathetic to the educators. I used to be an educator. But a lot of times what parents are met with is this attitude of, well, kids, and we can't be everywhere and we can't do everything. And my thing is that you have the petri dish at school. You have the thing where you set what the relationships are and you create an environment there. And yes, you can't be in control of everything, but if you create an environment at school that says we respect everyone always, then that kind of stuff doesn't happen outside. That's where I get upset. But I
think you're right, and I am getting to that. I mean, as I said, I promised I was going to have some suggestions for how to change the situation, not just to be unhappy about it. Yes. Maybe what I should have done is I should have showed up after school every day and taken, data and turned it into the school and said, Nick was being bullied. I wasn't really sure what to do.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So the federal government through Office of Civil Rights or the Department of Ed will write these things called a Dear Colleague letter that generally will discuss topics of importance to educational professionals. So they have a letter, a Dear Colleague letter from 2013 about how to address bullying. And they say, just as you say, Shannon, that it has to be addressed school-wide. And this may require bringing in somebody, outside professionals that do this on a regular basis and have some experience with how to implement it successfully. It's possible the school will not have adequate expertise within its own ranks or even within the district or SELPA to do this. But it seems to me like bullying is enough of a problem now So the district and SELPA should have had occasion to not only just write an anti-bullying, policy in the student handbook or a policy about cyberbullying, but they also should have some kind of team that they can deploy when you've got a flashpoint of disability-based discrimination in the form of bullying. So they do say, the federal government says, you've got to address it. You've got to teach appropriate behaviors and how to respond, because there are how to retrain, reframe, and get other students involved and other staff involved, so that when the bullying occurs, people actually stand up and advocate rather than disappearing into the woodwork or actually sometimes even furthering the bullying. We have to teach appropriate behaviors and how to respond. You have to provide active adult supervision at school, which is, I guess, kind of what Nick needed, somebody out in front of school to kind of monitor that situation, monitor the playground, monitor the halls. You have to intervene early, especially in common areas. And I thought about that a little bit, like the locker room hall situation, and I think the reason you got to intervene early is because that's in a big common area, and my fear would be that other students would pick up whatever the bully was doing and emulate it and make things worse for the person that's the recipient of the bullying. You need to use positive interactions with students, so you need to model for them in ways that are positive why it is that we don't permit this, it's unhealthy, we can do it. You have to train and provide ongoing staff for all of the faculty. That's where I think that the difficulty comes in. You have to give them explicit instructions on how to respond to bullying and also how to report it so that it gets acted upon. You need to develop and implement clear policies, and then you need to disseminate those policies, post them, and provide ongoing training about them. You need to respond quickly and document, which we talked about. You may want to collect data about the bullying from multiple sources. And, there is a tendency not to report at all, and so the frequency of bullying the federal government observes is probably underrepresented. You also have to notify parents when it occurs, which schools don't want to do because they don't like to cause additional work and problems for themselves. Lord knows they've got a lot of work to do. I get it. And the bully himself may need social skills instruction, frequent specific feedback, increased adult engagement, and he may need to be the subject of a functional behavior assessment to figure out why he's behaving like this. So the notion, I think, is that the school has to be on the alert for bullying, and they have to assume that it's going to go on and that their response to it is ongoing and considered to be integral to the school's overall behavioral framework and healthy functioning. So that's kind of about as far as we've gotten, I think, in the show about bullying. I sent some resources along so you could read about it. It's been written about extensively.
And we've posted these resources.
Okay. Good.
So there's one that's stopbullying.gov. There's a pacer.org/bullying/. There's teensagainstbullying.org, kidsagainstbullying.org. Then there's pbis.org, which is Positive Behavior Intervention Supports. There's a long list of these. You gave us a bunch of resources here, which Samantha has posted all of them on Facebook. Is that correct, Samantha? Yeah, Facebook. So that people have places that you can go to get resources to find the information that you need. Thank you, Bonnie. This is like amazing amount of information.
Well, my thought is that you're going to need to be, not you necessarily, Shannon, we're going to need to be the trailblazers in our schools, and we want to have resources to give to people.
Yeah.
I think that there are plenty of resources out there. I just don't think they're being utilized.
Well, I think that that's an incredible. Is that a good place for us to stop?
It is.
Okay. I just thank you so much. That's, for anybody who's ever, and I think you have been there, I have been there, where you're like, I don't know what to do. Among all the things that you just said to us and all these resources, you've got a bunch of different directions and expertise to look at, which is really incredible. So again, we want to tell people that if they want to get a hold of you, Hirji and Chow, and how do they get a hold of you?
310-391-0330 is the office phone. You can reach us through our website. We love hearing from you guys. We're hoping for next week we're going to have questions from you. Next week we're going to talk about how you can be your own detective and figure out things that are wrong in your IEP and in your students' educational program. And we're also going to talk about eligibility.
Okay.
Because this week, I got annoyed this week because I have a kid that's high functioning autism. What are they doing with him? Rather than working on his social skills and addressing his executive functioning and some of the higher order perspective taking, they're making him ineligible. They're saying he can do the classroom work, he's ineligible.
And that's all too common. So
we're on it, you know, because we're lucky enough, we have friends in the community that are professionals that will sometimes agree to take a look at an assessment for us, tell us what's wrong with it, and then we go back to the district and say, you just bought yourself an assessment. So that's all coming next week. Everybody stay safe.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'll talk to you a little bit later on so we can figure out business. All right. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Bye-bye. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with Colette Koski. We're going to talk about Infantino and these amazing press and stay sensory blocks that are on our toy guide. So stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman, Executive Director of TACA. We're gonna bake again.
All right.
It's my lovely assistant.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lucero.
We've heard so many people go, I want a decent chocolate chip cookie for my kid to eat. We've got all our dry ingredients. So I've got the flour, I've got the flaxseed meal, baking soda, baking powder, our gum, or xanthan gum.
Great.
So we're gonna get started in the mixer here. So there's our dry ingredients. I did have brown sugar. We did cut this down. And the one way to do that is my favorite, and that's maple syrup. I'm using egg for this recipe, but we could use more arrowroot and also the flaxseed meal. So I'll go ahead and throw my eggs in here, which I love doing. So, and then the last thing is a shortening and gluten-free casein-free butter replacement. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in. I've let it sit out for a while so it's nice and soft. So let's go ahead and mix this thing well. These are dairy-free, soy-free, and I really like them. Again, Enjoy Life is a great product. It's also net-free. And chocolate chips are a personal thing. I won't judge you if you use the whole bag.
I would.
I know, right? So here we go. Great recipe. It's the nice consistency. Everything's ready to go so we can enjoy our cookies here in just about 10 minutes. We want to give it a kind of like a couple inches between each cookie. You know, a lot of people are really concerned about aluminum, so what I've done is I laid down my natural brown parchment paper, and Jen's helping out putting the cookies down. So we're separating the nice baked good that's all organic from the aluminum cookie sheets. So let's go put these in. So magic oven allows me to pull the last ones out. And voila.
Yum, looks good.
Really great cookies. I'll let you have a bite so you can do my Vanna White there too. Yeah, these taste pretty good.
Really good.
We're gonna come back later after I gain 5 pounds and eat this entire tray.
For sure.
You know, more feedback is good. So if there's something you want us to convert, like another recipe or maybe a relative made, just let us know, autismlive@gmail.com. You can go to Facebook, or there's thousands of recipes on the TACA website just waiting for you to explore. You can go to TACANOW, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time at Autism Live.
Bye.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're having such a good time here with the Festival of Toys. And to continue on, we are being joined right now by Colette Koski. And Colette, am I saying your last name correctly?
Koski, yep.
Okay. And she is from Infantino. And what an amazing company. Let's have you talk a little bit about the company first, and then I want to talk a little bit about these amazing blocks I've got in front of me.
Sure. Infantino's been around for quite some time. We're known for smartly designed products for happy parenting. That's what we stand for. So everything is about the experience. So what the experience will be with a parent and with a child with our products. It's at the heart of everything we do. And we're most known for our infant toys, baby gyms, infant carriers, as well as our Fresh Squeeze line, which is make your own food pouches.
Well, I just love the entire product line, love your website, and I want to say that it did not go unnoticed when we went on your website, because I had seen these blocks and I said I got to know more about these, and I wanted to look at the whole company. Went on your website, and we love your website. I love how diverse your website is. That I was looking at it and loving so much. I was loving that I was seeing kids with different abilities, and that you guys don't even make a fuss about that. That I saw people, in every color in the rainbow. It just made me happy. I just want to tell you that. And then you clearly, you guys have well thought out products, which is one of the reasons why this particular toy, and I've got the other box there too. These are the Press and Stay sensory blocks. And this got the winner of the Autism Live Top Toy award for the infant and baby category. So, but I want to say that it was up for contention for a lot of different things in this category, because it's a sensory toy, because it's a top toy recommended by therapists. This could have won multiple awards. There's so many things that we loved about this particular product. Now, I want to wax poetic about it in a second, but why did you guys make this particular toy? What was it about this that you guys got excited about?
I think for most things that we are making, we're trying to design toys that have a long life to them. So in particular for this item, there's a lot of great things about it. But that open play, it sort of changes depending on whether you're 6 months all the way up to 5 years old, how you can play with these toys. The tactile input is really great when you're holding them. It helps offer that sensory feedback, which I think is incredible, and helps with grip. I have a little bit of deeper experience with that. I have a child with Down syndrome, so I've worked really closely personally, as well as professionally with a physical therapist, occupational therapist, and speech therapist, which, believe it or not, these would actually be used. And so that's important. The colorfulness of them, not only from a vision perspective, but something to talk about. It helps to drive conversation. And later on, you're able to use this in a different way, whether it's match the green to the green when you're playing with them, or you could start to have challenges later on to say, okay, now we're going to put them in sequences. Let's do green, 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 then red, red, red. So there's just so many different ways. And I actually owe this, I think, to those experiences, because I learned how many different ways you could just expand a toy. And I think that's why we love this so much, as well as how easy these are to connect and pull apart. So it's really frustration free, which is part of that great experience. And there's 24 blocks, so you can play with them independently. You could have parallel play, or you can have associative play.
It's wonderful. I was so impressed with this toy. You know, there's a list of things that every parent should get for every child, right? And blocks is at the top of the list. Every single child, regardless of ability, needs to have a decent set of blocks, because there are so many things that you can do with blocks. And for those of you that are watching right now that have a child who's on the autism spectrum, when you go to start ABA therapy, if your child is under the age of, say, 6, it's a different list than if your child is over the age of 6, but you're going to see on the list to have a super set of blocks, because they are going to use it for so many different lessons, for so many different things. When you go to get your child diagnosed, one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to sit down with block play and see if your child can imitate. And they're going to set one block on top of another, and they're going to set it in front of your child, and then they want to see if your child can set one block on top of the other. And then they go up to, 4 and 5 and see how many blocks will your child. Then they'll put together in a different shape, and they'll see if your child can imitate the shape. That's all part of the diagnosis for autism to be able to see, because a typically developing child by the age of 3 should be able to do some block imitation. So for everybody watching, that's just one of the things that you can start to work on with a child. But as you said, Colette, for some of our kids, they have different physical input and output, and setting a block on top of another, especially if there's any kind of a visual disturbance, which a lot of our kids we're finding out do, then they might set the block cattywampus. You guys can't see because I have so many blocks in front of me. Let me move some to the side. So set one on top of the other, and it's not exact. Now, if I set a typical block here, this block goes off and the child goes, I don't want to do this. But these blocks, because they're press and stay, they can stick them down. And then we're working on another OT skill, which is push, right? And pull. This all helps to build those handwriting skills later on that are so important, right? And we're working on it and they don't even know. Plus, it makes it reinforcing for them. I just love these. I love the fact that each side is a different color, as you said, for matching, for this is a great toy to teach colors. And we can teach sorting. Look, we can have, and say, here are the yellow ones. Stick all the yellow ones together. Or stick them so that all the white ones are facing the front at the same time, with the yellow ones on the top. Teaching that imitation. And they're so well made. I just love them. I know little hands absolutely love these. We did Sensitive Santa on Saturday, and this was just such the right gift for so many of our kids. And the parents all went gazanga over them, Colette. First of all, I want to thank you for making them. I want to thank you for sharing them with us. I want to thank you for sharing them with our families, because these are awesome.
Oh, I'm so glad. And I want to make sure I note we have an amazing design team who's really about the experience, and they focus so much on that, as well as our overall business and support from the leadership team in general is all about making sure we're delivering on that great experience. So it's such a great thing to hear. So thank you.
It is. And I really, there was even one young man who was there with us on Saturday that he was a little bit older, and I was talking to Mom about what kind of a toy would he like to have from Santa. And she said, well, he's this many years old, but what he's really into is blocks. And I said, really? And I said, because I have a set of blocks that's a little bit different. And she said, oh, he would just love it. And then he opened it up and she came to me and she said, thank you so much. He's going to have such a good time with these. And even though he was a little bit older, because they have the nubs on them and because they stick together, he was so excited. I'm 55 and I can't stop playing with them. So I just really think, especially in the autism community, we need to expand our mind a little bit about, they say that these are 6 months and up, but please don't think, okay, if I have a 6-year-old, I can't give these to a 6-year-old, because you know what? A 16-year-old would have a good time with these, quite honestly. They're really super fun and reinforcing, and just the feel of them in your hand is just an awesome thing, and they're great for our kids on the autism spectrum, but they're really great for everybody.
Yes, I think that's a good point. That we learn, I can say, we learn a lot about development. I have personally, from having a child with special needs, but most importantly, what I've learned is that those learnings apply to everyone, and it helps me to be a better, to play better, honestly, with all of my children, was to have that insight and that education from some of these great experts in the therapy community.
Well, I just love it. And I love Infantino, and I want to encourage everybody, go to infantino.com. Some amazing, amazing products there, including those baby carriers. For any of you who are looking to carry a baby, these are top quality products. You can see the kind of workmanship that goes into these blocks, same kind of workmanship that goes into those carriers. So Colette, thank you so much, and thank everybody there. We're showing a picture right now of some of the amazing products, the gyms and things that you guys have. Really lovely, lovely products. This needs to be a household name for everybody, Infantino. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate being on, and thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to say goodbye, and we're going to take a break, and we're going to be back with our mindfulness moment. So stick with us.
What would you do if your child was hurting?
If your family's future was uncertain.
If help seemed out of reach.
Have you been given no hope?
Taka means I am not alone in this.
This is the reality for families affected by autism. And today, the number of children with autism is growing more rapidly than ever. Taka unites these families and shows that they do not have to fight this battle alone.
Our oldest son, Jared, who has autism, when we first took him to the doctor to get the diagnosis, you know, it's so sad because they offer you nothing. There's no help, there's no hope.
One of the things that you learn with autism is being very grateful for even the small milestones. You know, when you first get the diagnosis, you go through all the range of emotions. You know, this can't be happening. Why is this happening? You have to get to a point where it's the emotion that has to be leading is, what can I do? The first thing that struck me was walking to a room and seeing, oh my gosh, we're not alone. And there is this very strong community that's already set. And something I still today associate with Taka the most is hope. To me, that's what Taka means. Taka means hope.
It's like you've got all these dreams and goals of what your son's gonna do, and you get your diagnosis and you're sent home. And that's it. There's no plan of action. There's no, here's autism, here's what we're gonna do to make your life better and help him. It's strictly go home and try to process it and go on the internet. It was devastating, and you just, you know, you go through this 3-week of depression, and then you snap out of it. You have to. And then you start making phone calls and trying to figure out what is autism and what are we gonna do? And then we found Taka, and it was life-changing.
Autism, there really is no definitive answer. It is trying to find the resources that are out there that can assist you to help your child so that, you know, you just don't feel so helpless at those particular moments.
There was direction, and there was hope, and there was a little ray of sunshine that he's gonna be okay, and we're gonna be okay. I always look back and think we would never be where we are. Carson wouldn't be where he is at without Taka.
So 13 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism, and that put our whole family into a tailspin. There were so many different ideas and things that were not proven. Nobody knew what guidance to give us. We had no direction. And then we found TACA. They helped give us a path to follow, help give our son a better future and make him healthy and put him back onto the road of recovery. When your son's first diagnosed, the first thing you hope for is, gosh, I just want my son to speak. I just want to be able to communicate with him in some way. Then you want a little more. You want him to go to a regular school. Then you want him to potentially have a real life and go to college. So you're always hoping for the future of your child. My son is a happy, healthy, vibrant young boy that's going to turn 15 really soon. And we couldn't be more pleased, and without TACA, I don't think we'd be in the place that we are today. We believe the future is not defined for many affected by autism. There is hope and direction for these kids and their families. TACA is dedicated to providing community, support, education, and hope to families affected by autism.
At TACA?
At TACA.
At TACA,
We are families with autism helping.
Helping.
Helping families.
helping families with autism.
Hi, my name is Matt. I am 19 years old, and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 6 years old. Autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in the United States, but I am living proof that with the right treatment, hope is possible. My future is not limited. Today, I am attending Fullerton Community College, and I run for the cross-country team for fun with my friends. It makes me feel proud when I think about my progress. Chances are you know someone affected by autism. Show them they are not alone and help others get on the road to recovery. Contribute to Talk About Curing Autism today.
Welcome back. It is time for our weekly drop-in to look at mindfulness. So we call it our mindfulness moment here. And at this time of the year, when a lot of people around the world are getting ready to celebrate a holiday in which they traditionally give some sort of a gift, I thought it would be appropriate for us to talk about the bestowing of gifts, both literally and imaginatively. So it's important that we model for our kids who are on the spectrum and our young adults who are on the spectrum what it is to give a gift, right? And part of gift giving, as it used to be traditionally, was being mindful about what would make the other person happy. I love to hear people's ideas about how to give a gift. I remember one person who said you should never give a gift to somebody that suggests that they can be better, that it's something that's going to help them or cure them. And I was like, really? Because I always thought that was such a great thing to give as a gift. But then I got to thinking about it and thinking, oh, I could see where that would be misinterpreted, right? And I do think that it's important for all of us to learn perspective taking with gift giving, that to not think about what would we like, right? Because a lot of people, that's how they gift, right? But important to think, what would that person like? That really shows being mindful about that person. It requires perspective taking. So we know that our kiddos sometimes struggle with perspective taking. We've talked ad infinitum about the Sally Ann test and how, you know, our kids who are on the spectrum often don't get it in the way that other kids do. So what better thing than the holidays to make a list of the people that you want to give gifts to, and that you're the person that you care about that's on the autism spectrum. And I mean, really, if they're 3 years old or they're 30 years old, you can do this with them, right? At whatever, you meet them at whatever point they are, you make some sort of a list if you have to do the list for them, but, you know, having a discussion about it. And sometimes it's more you talking than them, but do it with them, right? And then to start to think about, well, what would each person like? And what that does is it primes the pump for them to think, well, okay, what do we know about them? Like what things can we notice? And to do it weeks enough in advance so that they can be watching. I remember before I did Autism Live, I was hosting a radio show, Everyday Autism Miracles, and I had interns who were on the autism spectrum. And one of them during this time of the year said to me, man, it's just so stressful because I don't know what to get my mom. And, I got to get something fabulous for my mom because my mom does all this stuff for me. So I want to get her something really fabulous, but who can tell what to get her? When I ask her, what do you want? She says, I don't need anything, right? And I listened to his angst about it as there were therapists in the other room working with my son on exactly this particular skill, and he was 6, okay? So it was interesting to me to see, okay, this is what it's like with a 6-year-old, and this is what it's like with a 21-year-old. And they were saying to my son, like, you get to be a spy and you get to look at the person and go, like, what do I see them wear? What's on their desk? Are there patterns? Like, is there a color that they wear? Do they have animals, figurines on their desk? Like, what's on their notebook? What color is their computer? Is there any stickers on their iPad? All these different things. So what was so amazing to me was when we went shopping that year for the person that was his case manager, he picked a pair of earrings that were black. And I remember saying to him, why? And he goes, well, clearly everything Sabrina wears is black. Sabrina is all about the color black. And that was so exciting to me. And she was so thrilled with the gift of the earrings, but she was more thrilled with the story because it meant that he had paid attention to who she was. So there's that kind of mindful giving. And I want everybody to stop for a moment. And instead of being on the rat race of, what can you get somebody that makes it look like you spent a lot of money, right? We all do that. I do that, right? Instead of that, what would they really like? What would make them happy? Because sometimes that is not something that you spend money on. And in fact, that's when I want to pivot into talking about the bestowing of gifts that's just maybe imaginary. That there are some cultures and there are some religions that think one of the greatest gifts that you can do is to sit mindfully and wish a wish upon the person you're thinking about. That there are people in different cultures and different religions that as they're walking through a village, that they acknowledge and say hello to somebody, but as they're doing it in their mind, they think, I wish all happiness for you and yours, or something like that. I've heard people talking about whatever it is that you want for yourself, to wish that for your enemy. Like what a concept, right? But when you think about that, what we think becomes what we say, becomes what we do, becomes our experience of the world, then if you are spending your day today going through and every time you see somebody thinking, I hope good things happen for you, how different will you feel at the end of the day than being caught up in your own stuff or being miserable? I can tell what my thought process is when I'm driving by what I meet on the road, because we are all mirrors reflecting out into the world. When I'm angry and furious, and believe me, I am sometimes, and I'm angry and furious and I'm stuck in traffic and I'm like, why did you do that? In my mind. I'm not saying anything out loud most of the time. Sometimes I say things too, but I find that people are always in my way when I'm driving that way, and somebody pulls in front of me and it's all, right? But there are other times, if I remember to do this, that I'll be happy and I'll be driving along in my car and I'll see somebody in the car next to me and I think, gosh, I hope good things happen for them. I hope they've got somebody who loves them and I hope good things for them, right? And then it becomes sort of infectious, because once I do it once, it's reinforcing. It is. And it's automatically reinforcing. And then I'll think, oh, that felt good. So then I'll turn and, I'll see somebody and I'll go, oh, I hope good things happen for them. And then I start to, look at everybody and do that. And you know what I find? That suddenly the traffic is lighter. And I'm not kidding. It's not just my perception of it. The traffic is lighter and somebody lets me in front of them. And, you know, it feeds upon itself. Don't take my word for it though. Take it out for a trot today. See how it is when you think of bestowing gifts on everybody that you see. Wish a wish upon somebody and see what happens. It's a great way to be mindful and to go through this season very mindful. Try it. All right, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to be back for our Autism in the Classroom tips. Stick with us.
This is Logan Shepherd. At first glance, he looks like a typical American teenager. He plays in a band, loves hanging out with his friends, he doesn't like doing homework, and he's not really fond of broccoli. But Logan Shepherd is not your typical 14-year-old. Logan was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. He was nonverbal, made no eye contact, and his parents were told to abandon all hope. Instead, his parents began an intensive intervention treatment. At its center was a quality ABA program known as the CARD method. This is Logan Shepherd now.
All I really want to say is, like, I'm kind of copying Martin Luther King. I kind of have a dream, like, that one day, like, I can just, like, inspire people and never give up. Because, like, that's what I want to do in life. Because if I can succeed, they can succeed. And I will succeed.
To follow Logan's musical journey, visit www.facebook.com/officialdrummerrock or @drummerrock on Instagram. For more information on the CARD method, visit www.centerforautism.com or call 800-345-CARD. Rock on, Logan.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Still got my blocks. I'm enjoying my blocks. But it's time for our Autism in the Classroom tip for the day. And you know, we've talked before about how there are 4 usual suspects when we're getting behavior, and this is in the classroom, out of the classroom. The 4 usual suspects are attention, wanting access to someone or something, escape maintain behavior when there's a reason why they want to flee from whatever the behavior is, and then there's automatically reinforcing. There's something about it that gives a paycheck on the inside. That one's the hardest, right? But what we find in the classroom, and I will say too, we had a discussion with Dr. Grampiche the other day, and she said, yeah, there's a little bit of an asterisk on the 4 usual suspects that sometimes control is at play. And the older the kids get, and sometimes the more that the kids have not been able to have some anonymity, control will become a factor. But it usually pairs with something else. And almost always, if something's going to pair with something, it'll pair with attention. And attention is the thing that teachers are going to see more often than not, right? Because attention can come in so many different packages. And I like to think of our kids as all being little buckets, right? Beautiful little buckets, but they're empty. And we have to keep the buckets full. If they don't get enough attention, then warning bells go off and all kinds of things can go wrong. So imagine a teacher who has 35 kids in a classroom, because that's kind of the reality here in the United States now. 35 kids in the room. That's 35 buckets that they have to keep full at all times. And that's really not an easy thing to do. Quite honestly, you know, if I could do anything for teachers, I would give them all at least 1 aide. I would. But budget-wise, apparently that is not in the cards at this moment, because our priorities tend to go towards other things, which I could go off on that, right? So what's a teacher to do? If they've got 35 kids, they all need attention, what are you to do? And a lot of times teachers get so frustrated that they kind of throw in the towel on it and they try to ship kids out of the classroom. Well, the problem with that is that then you get kids who are escape maintained. So if I want to be out of the classroom, and a lot of our kids do, do. The classroom is a painful place for them because they don't know what's happening. They don't know what you're talking about that's review that was from last year because they didn't get it. There are kids that are looking at them and that makes them feel wrong or funny, or they just like to be outside. There are people who don't like to be inside, right? There are many reasons to want to escape a classroom. So if you start shipping people out when they misbehave and go, well, you need to go to the principal's office, you know, you can't ship everybody out. And what happens is the kids who are escape maintained go, so all I have to do is X, Y, and Z, and she's going to ship me out. And then those kids become new attention-seeking problems. So I don't advocate the shipping kids out unless there's violence or imminent violence. That, for me, as a teacher, is the criteria for shipping somebody out. If somebody's just being disruptive, sometimes it's worth your while to take a second and either, you know, take some data on it mentally. There are all kinds of ways that you can do that now that will help you to be able to do that. But just, you know, be mindful. Even if it's a little hash mark, you can make the columns beforehand, right? About, I'm going to pull out my paper and talk about the 3-term contingency. And parents can do this, so teachers can certainly do this, right? So you get a piece of paper and you fold it into 3, and you've got 3 little folds there. You don't even have to put the mark on the paper, and you've got your A, your B, and your C. And if it helps you, because you're a teacher, because you want to keep track of the time, you can segment this out line by line, and you can put 9 to 10 over in the other column. And you can, you know, make it smaller times if you need to, but you can put an hour at a time down the column. So A is the antecedent, it's what happened before. B is the behavior, C is the consequence. And really in the beginning, all you want to do is note the time and the behavior. So, and you can make extra columns in the behavior that if you know that the kid, you know, shouts out, you can make a shout out column. You can make a column for bothering other people. And you can make a column for, let's say they spit, right? So you've got all 3 down that way too. So, you know, Bobby spits at 9:10, right? And I go over and I put a hash mark in the spit column under 9:10. Now later on, I can go back and help myself out a whole lot, and I can say, okay, so if it happened at 9:10, what was going on right before? And you know, my memory may not be great, but I can write down, oh, we did music class before. Music was at 9:05, so I write there, and then I write what the consequence was. And sometimes the consequence is not just us, right? Bobby spit at 9:10, and Gilda, who was sitting 2 seats over, said, ew, right? So I would say attention from peers, right? To that. And maybe I said to, you know, Billy or Bobby or whoever I said his name was, I said to him, you know, please go wipe your hands. If I said something to him, it's part of the consequence. And I would put that all there. And then just for a couple of days, I would take some data on that. But remember, when you're in the classroom, in the moment, it's just one little hash mark in the column. And then I would start to look at it and go, okay, what do I see going on? Now, a great thing you can do, take skills, get a 14-day free trial, and there's something called the CFA, which is the Card Indirect Functional Assessment, Card Indirect Functional Assessment. And it will help you to walk through and ask you all the questions to figure out, and if you had this, it would be so easy to figure out what the function of the behavior, and it'll tell you. It's 64% attention and it's 12% escape. It'll just tell you, right? If you don't have that, it's a little bit more work for you, and you got to logic it through and go, you know, when it's attention, in order to qualify for attention, it means it has to happen whether people are there or not. So, you know, if the child is going, you find out later on that the child went in the bathroom and spit all over the sink and smeared it on the wall, well, that's not attention seeking. That's probably automatic reinforcing. There's something about the feel of it on their hands that they like because nobody was watching. But if it never happens when they, you know, are by themselves, then, you know, it might happen, it might be that it's attention seeking. And when we have attention seeking behavior, it's hard in the classroom, because what we want to do is not, whatever the fuel for the fire is, we want to not give it. So if attention is the fuel for the fire, then we want to starve it of attention, which means we're not going to focus on that attention. If we truly find out that attention is not the thing, it's hard though, because some of the kids can be giving attention. The better thing for attention is to fill the bucket before it gets to the point where they have to do the behavior. So what we do typically is put the kid on an attention diet. And I know you think diet, I think diet, and we think deprivation, but the truth of the matter is the diet is what you get. And what we want to do is make sure that they're never out of attention, which means we're going to regularly find a way to give them attention, you know, but not in the moment that they're doing the behavior. Everything else, but not in the behavior that we don't care for. So Billy spits, and you know what sometimes you do is you move Billy's desk up close to you, like really close next to your desk, so that the other kids can't see when he's spitting on the desk. And if he goes to spit, you go and stand on the other side of him, so you're not giving him any kind of attention and the other kids can't see him, right? And you will see an extinction burst where Billy will try other things. Billy will get out of his seat and he'll come around to see if he can spit and get your attention. And it's super important during an extinction burst that we don't give attention. You might have to redirect, you might have to move him back to his seat, but you would do it in a way that you didn't give a whole lot of attention to it. You wouldn't talk to him, you would just motor him over gently. You know, we're not pushing anybody, but motor him over while you're talking to another child. So anyway, when we're talking about, you know, the Civil War, as you're moving him back over to his desk, right? But the very next moment that he does something properly, like if you're motoring him and he goes to sit down and there's no spitting happening, then you can say, hey, you're doing good sitting in that chair. If he's still spitting, you would wait until the first available moment. You would go, give him something that he can't be spitting, but that involves attention. So you might say something that you know that he wants to do, like you know that he loves to be the person who does something on the whiteboard. And so you would say, okay, my friends, I want to know who is it that would like to be next for the whiteboard. Please raise your left hand if you, and you know that the left hand is the one he likes to spit on, right? Please raise your left hand really nice and tall. I want to see who's doing good listening. Billy, oh my gosh, you're doing really good listening. Would you like to be the person to draw on the whiteboard right now? Yes, I would. And now you've given attention, and but because it wasn't for the spitting, because it was for holding his hand up nice and tall and sitting nicely, he's in good graces, and now he gets to do the thing. You gotta, on a regular basis, be giving him attention. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It can be eye contact and saying, I really like what you're doing there. Really proud of the work that you're doing today. Just keep putting stuff in the bucket, and you will find that you can do so much more of that if you're not having to deal with behaviors. If you can quiet the behaviors down, and there's a threshold over which you reach, and if you can get there, you'll find it's just so much easier to give out tons of attention to people and tons of praise to people. But you're going to have to go through that hard moment where some are still misbehaving and some are starting to get it, right? Just get to that point. They will start to learn from each other. Oh, she gives attention when you do good things. And you have attention seekers in your classroom, I guarantee you. Give the attention to them and you'll get the behavior back on track. Then you'll be giving attention, but you'll also be teaching, and it will be a really true and glorious thing. Now, we're like out of time here, but I wanted to take just a second. You saw our video earlier about the sensitive Santa, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. It was so amazing, and it was so nice to see all of your lovely families. And I really want to encourage you. Sensitive Santas are popping up all over the country, and a lot of them are happening in the next 2 weekends. Go on things like Eventbrite and go online, search Sensitive Santa near me and see if you can find one. They're all slightly different. Some give away free toys, we do. Some do not. But they will help you to have the experience of going, seeing a Santa that gets it, getting the picture. You know, it's one thing that every year so many of us felt left out of, and you just don't have to anymore. I was so touched by the parents who would come in and it was like, oh, we just don't think he's going to be able to do it. And we said to everybody, well, if it's important to you, like if you want the picture, we can get the picture. And we did. We got the picture for all of the kids. And the parents who afterwards said, thank you so much. Like, I just have gotten used to not being able to have this. And I would say to each and every one of them, I know, because I was that mom too. And we don't have to be that way. Remember, I always say, we hold hands, si se puede, we can all do this. And to everybody else, I would say, you know, that's my personal baby every year is that Sensitive Santa event, because it's so meaningful to me on so many different ways. What would be meaningful to you? What do you have to give back to the community? My family is so excited every year. It's a lot of work. Let me be honest, it's a lot of work, and we are dog tired on the night after the Sensitive Santa. But we had a lovely chat in the car with our 14-year-old son and with my husband, and we on the way home, and we said, what a lovely thing that we get to do this every year, that this is our family thing that we do, and that more and more people, our friends and our colleagues are joining us to do it. It just is a really special thing. I encourage you to find what your thing is, how you can participate with the community. We're out of time, but I want to tell you that we're back next week. Big shows. We've got some amazing stuff for you, so make sure that you're back here with us then. Be mindful and bestow your gifts until then, and then write to me and let me know how it goes, would you? I'll see you next week, but until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.